Welcome aboard, everybody, to OG 55 Live on Halloween. It's spooky season. George over here looking like a bellhop. It's awesome, awesome. Love the outfit, George. But yeah, welcome aboard, everybody, to OG 55 Live. This is not a premiere. We are actually live. So send in your questions, send in your comments. We're going to be taking all kinds of stuff. Today, we don't really have any topics, so we're going to be going off of what you guys and gals want to talk about. So send in those questions. Up next on OG 55. Welcome to OG ASMR Halloween edition. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome, everybody, to OG 55 Halloween edition. We got people in the chat already. We got Mr. Seymour Duck. Welcome aboard, brother. We got Mr. Rob Foos. Rob, welcome. We got BJ Vincent. Welcome, one and all, to the show. It's going to be a packed show, man. We're going to take all the questions, all the comments from the viewers, and we're going to let the viewers kind of guide the ship today. They're gonna be driving the SSOG 55. So George, if you could, before we get started, if you let everybody home know where they could find us or find you on social media.
Absolutely, but before I do, I just have to say, good evening, foolish mortals. In tonight's event is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard, because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this show travels directly to Orange Grove 55's live HallowSTREAMs.
There we go. We even have a scary little laugh and everything. And no, that is not Brian Roberts, Comcast CEO. That is not him. It might sound like him, but it's not him.
Yes.
We got Cliff Fix. We also have Mr. Matthew Murr in the chat. Welcome, fellows. Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, I want, for those of you just getting in, it's Ask Us Anything show. So make comments, questions, whatever you want us to discuss. We will be answering all the questions right now. Now, before we do that, though, let's talk a little bit about the big news of the day, shall we, George?
Absolutely.
This was big. I mean, this is real big. So this is from our friend Scott Gooston. Shout out to Scott. The monorails, or the monorail over at Walt Disney World, was having a bit of an issue. Monorail yellow. Disney's statement on the monorail evacuation earlier today, it says here, quote, "This morning, the monorail experienced a flat tire near the Epcot parking lot toll plaza. No guests or cast members have reported injuries, and all passengers were safely evacuated." What are your thoughts on this, George? Because look, I mean, I made a tweet about this today. Like, we need new monorails at Walt Disney World. This is, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, just for one tire." Come on, you guys. It's not for one tire. There's been a laundry list of issues with these monorails for the past few years. You know, doors are not closing properly. Things are falling off the monorail. Now we got this tire situation. Obviously, there's an issue with these monorails. They're old. They're from the 80s, you know? But what do you think, George? What's your take on this? Is this acceptable or not?
Yeah, no, I've been kind of on Disney's butt for this for quite some time now, and I feel like the monorails definitely need some TLC. Before any other tragic incidents happen where it may even cause even more legalities to be put more onto Disney. They should really kind of step forth and fix these issues before that, those issues arrive. My thing is that despite if, Disney does put forth the $60 billion towards the parks or what have you, or 17 billion towards just Walt Disney World. I think regardless, this is a transportation vehicle that guests travel on day in and day out from morning till night. This is a safety hazard. So this is something that regardless of what you want to see in the parks, regardless of what how much capital funds that Disney puts into the parks, this should be invested in almost immediately. Especially not just because of this incident, but as you had mentioned, prior incidents where the doors won't shut.
Right.
There was a tragic fatal accident, including the monorail, pieces of the monorail falling off, the track falling down, not falling down, but pieces of the track falling down.
Right.
And then, of course, this issue, the bad upkeep inside the cars themselves, as far as like with the odor and the seats and everything. That's something, and I can understand. There's normal wear and tear, but
Right.
this is almost to the point of neglect.
Yeah, it is. And from what I understand, from what I've been hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat or George, if you're aware, I think they are addressing the inside cabins. I think they are one by one kind of refurbing some of these. I saw someone on Twitter today mention that the new refurbed cabins look pretty good, but again, they have to address the outside, and they have to address some of the mechanics, with the doors and what have you. So it's a big issue. It's a huge issue. It says here, Marty Snyder says, you're a good friend of the channel, by the way. We love Marty Snyder. Thank you for joining us tonight, Marty.
Marty.
Marty, he says, didn't they just replace the tires after COVID? Wasn't that what was keeping the closed upon opening? You know what? Come to think of it, Marty, I think you're right on that. Wasn't that? I think
that is true. Yeah, that is true. Now, this might have just been a freak occurrence that a tire blew, and I do know, things happen. These things run day to day. It's just like if you're driving a car and you're on the highway or the freeway. You blow a tire, you pull over. I do know, obviously, when this is holding a lot of more people at once, it becomes a liability. If God forbid something happens, but yeah, that is very true. They may have already replaced the tires, and this was just a freak occurrence. But one way or the other, the monorail as a whole, when it comes to the interior, the exterior, the track, everything needs to just kind of get a little bit of an upkeep.
And to be fair, even I mean that was even if it was after COVID. I mean, if it was, because COVID's kind of like in the rear view now. It's been a few years, I mean, in terms of especially Walt Disney World reopening. So, I mean, I don't know the lifespan of those tires, but these things run all day long, every day. So maybe that's the normal lifespan is like 2 or 3 years. I don't know.
Walt Disney World, I believe, was only closed for 4 months.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and then also too, regarding, this incident, both the Reedy Creek Fire Department and the Orange County Fire Department was on scene, which I think is quite interesting because we talk about what's going on in Florida right now with the battle between Disney and the politics and what have you, and this is where I feel like regardless of what side you're on, in some odd shape or form, whether you call it Reedy Creek or you call it whatever the new district thing is called, they need to have something in placement of that because Disney World is basically a gigantic complex of its own.
Right.
They need to be able to have first responders come sooner rather than later.
Right. And friend of the channel, Mr. Seymour Duck. It's good to see you, Seymour. Thank you for joining us tonight, brother. He says, good thing Disney is investing $60 billion over the next decade into the parks. That's true. Seymour, we haven't really gotten any word though as to where that money is going to go. Now, here's the fortunate thing with the monorails though, right? If they do decide to take some of the $60 billion and apply it to the new monorails, any new monorail fleet would have to be a slow kind of methodical rollout. They obviously couldn't. I would think they would replace 1 or 2 trains at a time, and it would be like a multi-year kind of thing. So you can stretch the expense, the cost of these monorails over multiple fiscal periods. That's a good thing for Disney. So we'll see. I hope so, Seymour. I hope part of that $60 billion does go to a new monorail fleet. I think Disney World needs it. There's been too many incidences, aside from this tire thing. I think they need to address it. I absolutely think they need to address it. Let me see here. I'm trying to do now everybody, I know I'm going out of order. I'm going to address all the monorail stuff now, and then we're going to get into some other stuff about like Murphy and the Dragon and all that. But BJ Vincent here says, this is another reason why Disney needs to invest in new monorails. They need to stop being cheap. Yeah, BJ, I would agree with you on that. I think that with this, I think it's a safety issue. And Disney World really depends on these monorails. This is not like over here in California, it's an attraction almost, right, George? It's like, you know, you don't necessarily need it. In Florida, you need it.
You do.
You need it. Yeah. It's pretty necessary. So Marty Snyder here continues with, I think this is why DeSantis targeted transportation inspections in Reedy Creek. Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't think DeSantis is a good. I've made no bones about it. I think DeSantis is all in this just to hurt the mouse house. I don't think he really gives a shit about the monorail safety or any of that. I think you're right, Marty. I think that he's looking in places where he thinks he's going to find stuff. Absolutely. But I don't know. DeSantis's motives are all about just punishing Disney because he thinks they're woke. It's a bunch of nonsense.
And then, you clicked it. Okay.
Yeah, Cliffix here, friend of the channel. Thank you for joining us. Cliffix says here, I think that 60 billion also includes global parks and cruise ships. That is true. That is true. But here's the thing too, Cliffix. I was watching a channel recently, and they were talking about this, saying, well, 60 billion over 10 years is really only $6 billion a year. But see, they don't allocate like that, though, really. Like, I mean, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll focus on like one resort. Like, for example, like, you know, maybe one year they'll spend $2 or $3 billion in Anaheim, right? And then Anaheim will get like a 2 or 3 year break. And during that 2 or 3 year break, maybe they'll focus on another resort, maybe take a year off. So the 60 billion isn't going to be allocated evenly over 10 years. It's going to be lump summed, I think, and focused on parks and resorts that they feel need it. So, you know, I think if you spend the $60 billion, you know, in a smart way, you can invest pretty good in all these in the areas that need it. That's the thing, you know. And I think that like I think people are focusing too much on like, well, if we split it over 10 years, it's not that much money. Yeah, but they're not going to split it like that over 10 years. There's parks that need it more than other parks. Yeah. And some of these parks are going to get more money than other parks. And, you know, and some parks, maybe one year, no parks get anything, right? So it all depends on that allocation. It really, really does.
And also too, for how long it takes for a project to get done at Disney. Like, for instance, Pandora, it had taken like 6 years from announcement to grand opening.
Right.
And that cost about $500 million. So you could take just that project alone, $500 million, and in the matter of 6 years, you know, that's just for one project. So they could have multiple projects going off at once. Right. In different locations. Now, also too, they did say that it would be part of the international parks and the cruise ships. If they were to use it, I feel like that they would use that not as much. I think they would use it to maybe like to tweak some things and maybe do some upgrades, some refurbishments. Because as of right now, a lot of the international parks are already getting their major expansions, like Shanghai with Zootopia, Hong Kong with Frozen, Tokyo, the Fantasy Springs section. So they're all kind of getting their own big expansions now.
So do they need another expansion right away? Probably not. Correct. So a lot of those foreign parks like Hong Kong and like Paris and all that, you know, I'm sorry, Hong Kong or Shanghai, you know, like George said, I mean, they're getting Zootopia and Frozen right now. Those are pretty big expansions, right? So they're not going to need another expansion like next year. You know, that'll leg it out for at least a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years for them, I think.
And Tokyo's getting Fantasy Springs, which is giving them 3 new lands, you know, just within that park alone. And as far as the cruise ships,
but Tokyo is not included in Disney's money.
Right. But I mean, like, as far as like, well, and anyway, Tokyo can do pretty much freaking like, even if they had part of that money, they probably wouldn't even. They'd probably say, we're not even going to use that 60 billion. We got our own. Like, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But and then the cruise ships, you know, we're already getting the Treasure. The Wish just came out. We're getting a third of the Triton class ships, and then the Singapore ships. So again, we're kind of already set for the cruise ships. I would say within the next decade, they may like alter some of the previous ships, maybe change a restaurant, maybe change a theme to something. But I think as far as the cruise ships goes, I think we're were pretty much already good in the pipeline.
Yep, 100%. CliffX here follows up with any rumors on a new Murphy. I'm glad we got Marty in the chat with this because he's got some info on this. But the last rumor that I heard is that Disney is reworking the show to have no dragon, right? So they're going to rework it. It's going to come back, I think, next year with no dragon. From what I've heard and from what I understand, we're going to get Murphy back, but we're going to have a period of time, probably a few years, with no dragon. So that's why they're taking their time to kind of rework the show. So it's decent for a few years, right? And then we'll get Murphy when it comes back online. That's what I've heard last. That could change. Obviously, rumors are rumors and things do change at Disney quite often. But we'll see. Now CliffX follows up here with, didn't Murphy blow an unmaintained hydraulic seal, burn itself with hydraulic oil? Now Marty follows up with, see, this is why I'm glad Marty's in the chat. Marty knows Murphy. Marty knows his Murphy. He says, yep, Murphy was hydraulic oil 100%. 100%. Okay. So this Murphy situation was a disaster, an absolute disaster. But from what I understand and from what I'm hearing, we are going to get Murphy back, but it's going to be a few years, at the very least. At the very least.
I have we have a mutual friend who does have some news on it. It was confirmed. It is being Murphy is being worked on, as you mentioned, OG, that it may take some time. They don't actually know when, because not only is the dragon being rebuilt literally from the ground up, but they also are working on some things so this incident doesn't happen again. Right. So it may take some time, but yeah, I think in Disney's case, they just have to get some form of Phantasmic up. Yeah. Because that Disneyland needs it. They need their Phantasmic back. Yeah, and what my prediction is, I do think we'll get Murphy, the physical dragon, pretty much the way it was before. I think they're going to rebuild it. But what I do think is going to change, and what I do think will not return, is the fire breathing effect the way it was before. Mm-hmm. They might opt for some sort of projection thing or some sort of new technology to give the illusion of fire. I don't think we're gonna see the fire the way it was before, in my opinion. But what do you think, George? Your prediction on that? Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think Disney is going to want to have to deal with anything of that. Even though it may not ever happen again, it may have just been, a bad, fluke. But is Disney really going to risk it? I seriously doubt it, because if, God forbid, this happened again, I really don't think they would, fork out the money, the time, and the effort to rebuild a Murphy 3. So I think they're going to want to do everything possible that this incident doesn't happen again. Yeah, and it's a huge safety issue for the cast members and the performers involved. We're lucky this time no one was hurt, no one was seriously injured, but next time it might not be that way, so they have to really make sure. So I think that fire effect, that breathing fire effect, I think the lagoon will still light up, or the rivers of America will light up, but the fire coming out of his mouth, I have a feeling they're going to cut that. I really do. And you have to really think too, with the Santa Ana winds, luckily it wasn't as bad, with the lower level of the winds that day, because it could have been, the whole island could have been engulfed in flames. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So they lucked out in that regard. It could have been a lot worse, but it shouldn't happen at all. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So, but that's the latest on Murphy. So good friend of the channel, Mr. Matthew Murr, all the way over from the UK. Matthew, thank you for joining us, brother. Says here, what do you guys think? What do you guys really think about Peltz? Some of what he's saying about his plan to save Disney is too good to be true. Yeah, look, here's my feeling on Peltz, Matthew. I think it might be good for maybe him and maybe a couple of his people to get on the board, right? Because I do think that friction is good. You don't want a board full of just Iger yes men, which is what we're hearing is the case, right? So you do want a few people on there to sort of push back. I think that's healthy for not just a company like Disney, but for the government. You want checks and balances and what have you, right? My issue with Peltz, though, is what came out the other day. I don't like Perlmutter. I don't like Perlmutter at all.
I remember he was a huge issue. He was a huge issue for Kevin Feige long time ago, like a decade or more ago. And he was meddling with the content and making issues for Feige. And once Feige got him out of the way, the Marvel got better. You know, it really did. So I don't know if I really want him involved. I don't know if I want like a Perlmutter on the board or something like that. I was kind of, honestly, the second go around with Peltz, I was kind of on board with Peltz. I was kind of like I said, maybe Disney needs a little bit of a checks and balance, you know, situation on that board, and maybe Peltz can bring that. Once the Perlmutter crap came out the other day, I'm like, I don't know, y'all. I mean, he just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. He really does. What do you think, George? What are your thoughts on this, brother?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Peltz, I really didn't have too much of an issue with, especially the second time around, because it's like, okay, now he's like, I really have to kind of step in. I gave you a chance to Iger, you know, nothing's really kind of working out in his favor, so it's like maybe I should, you know, get a seat, shake some things up, you know, get the ball rolling. I was okay with that. Yeah, when Perlmutter came onto the scene and you're kind of already seeing some shade already showing, and he's not even in there yet. And it's like, and this guy has a reputation for that. I'm like, okay.
Well, and then the other thing too with Perlmutter is that he got fired or whatever from Iger. Mm-hmm. So now he comes in. Is his goal? Is it the betterment of the Walt Disney Company, or is it to stick it to Bob Iger? You know, and I don't want that. Like, not that I care about Bob Iger necessarily, but I want someone who gets in there and wants Disney to get better. I don't want someone to go in there with an axe to grind because they feel like they were scorned by fucking Bob. You know, I don't need all that drama. Like, you're in there to fix the company. You're not in there to settle a score with Bob Iger. And I feel like with Perlmutter, there's a risk of that, and it worries me. It really, really does. We got the Bad Thoughts podcast in the house. We love these guys. We're actually going to do a video with them. We're going to record with them on Friday about the South Park thing, right?
Yes.
Which is going to be really, really fun.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But Bad Thoughts podcast, welcome aboard, brothers. It says here, who is the who is the sexiest podcasters besides the guys from OG55? Okay, you know, hey, I'll play ball.
You're gonna play ball?
I'll play ball. You know who I think is a sexy? If I had to say who's a sexy podcast or a YouTuber, Disney YouTuber, I would have to say Jordi Andrade. She's pretty fire, man. She's pretty fire. I would say Jordi Andrade. That's my pick. What do you? I don't know if anyone in the chat has seen her content, but also she's amazing. Like, she's really, really funny. She goes to the parks. She's hilarious. She has great content. But I think she's by far the sexiest.
Oh God.
What say you, George?
Lord. Okay.
The Italiano.
Do I really just have one? Okay. Let's see. Okay. There's a few YouTubers that I find very attracted. But okay. So now the reason why person I kind of lean towards is because I don't know if all of you have watched our episode on the Bad Thoughts podcast, but one of my biggest celebrity crushes is singer Colby Callier, and she just has this very distinct look to her. And YouTuber Jackie from Super Enthused kind of has those features. So I kind of tend to that nerdy kind of cutesy type of look. I like. And then the other one is I actually just started watching her YouTube channel is Emily Enchanted.
Okay.
That she's a YouTuber, Instagram, and I think TikTok as well.
So George is Emily Enchanted and Jackie from
Super Enthused,
and OG is Jordi Andrade. So yeah, check them out, subscribe to them. They're all amazing content creators, so it definitely worth it. So a friend of the channel, Alia Aloha, is in the house. Alia, thank you so much for joining us. Alia. She says here, I feel about Ike. I do too, Alia. I'm not on board with him. She goes on to say also, but Iger needs to step up and speak up about plans for Disney, or they will make inroads. Ball is in Iger's court. Stock is meh because Iger is too silent about the plans. That's absolutely right, Alia. I do think they really need to. First of all, they got to address this Comcast thing with the Hulu. Like, what's going on with that? Like, can we settle that for once and for all? Just get that behind us already. They got to settle that. We got to figure out what's going on with linear TV and ESPN and all that stuff, right? So you're right, Ollie. I think it is a drag on the stock. He has to start making announcements and start making moves, you know? Now, we did have our good friend Seymour Duck, who's in the chat with us today, on the channel recently. But he was also saying in regards to the stock, he thinks that once Disney starts providing the dividends, the stock will stabilize. See, that's why when Comcast has like a crap quarter, like they did this last time, their stock bounced back pretty quick. Is because they have those dividends. Seymour is saying once Disney gets their dividends back, which Iger promised by the end of this year, they're going to get those back into effect. He was predicting that might stabilize the stock and it might do a little better. So we'll see. But you're right, Ali. I do think that Iger is not being aggressive enough with his plans for the future. A lot of stuff is in limbo right now. There's a lot of rumors and stuff, but there's not a whole lot of set plans. And
it's
that's not
almost
good.
like Iger kind of caught the Damara bug. You know, it's like just like stuff is just being said, but the ball's not rolling.
Right.
And it's like, I get that they're trying to save as much as they can, you know, because they're already in kind of like a financial burden situation right now, which a lot of companies are. I'm not just putting that on Disney, but in order to move forward, just like Walt himself, you have to kind of take some risks, because if you just keep the company on a standstill,
right,
then the needle is never going to move.
Yeah. You got to make moves. You can't be afraid to make a move. You got to take a risk. You got to swing. You got to try. And I feel like he's playing it a little too safe. Not even a little, a lot. So thank you, Alia, for that. Bad Thoughts says here, wrong answer. It's Tones and the Candy Camper. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, those fellas are pretty damn sexy. And you guys will see at home. I mean, they'll be back on the channel on Friday. They're pretty sexy guys. Really sexy guys. All right, Mr. Matthew Murr here says, what would it take to truly shake your confidence in Disney to the point that you believe it can't be saved under any circumstances? That's tough, Matthew. I mean, look, I think that if we get to the point with Disney, right, where we're hearing that they're going to sell Pixar, they're going to sell Marvel, they're going to sell Lucasfilm, like these big studios, like really the tentpole properties, and they're selling those off, and you know they're spinning the parks off. I think at that point, I think my confidence would be shaken pretty much beyond repair, because I mean at that point the company is being, you know, sold off and broken up, and yeah, that would destroy me. That would be pretty fucked up, man. I mean, that would be the circumstances. But in all honesty, Matthew, that's not going to happen. And the thing is that this is the problem with like social media and stuff, right? It's very, very fashionable to sort of like shit all over Disney and, oh, it's dead, it's collapsing, it's this, that, and
then
the other.
and then it gets in your head, and where sometimes it makes you think, oh my God, is it really collapsing?
Right, because everyone's like making money off of this, right? And because everyone wants to hear about Disney, you know. So if you make a headline, you know, saying that Disney is on its last legs, you're gonna get a lot of eyeballs on that because everyone wants to read about Disney, you know. But I think that there's a lot of noise out there, Matthew, and you can't really believe it all. Okay, now this doesn't mean that Disney's doing good right now, because Disney is going through hell right now. But it's not necessarily as bad as you might see on Twitter, as you might see on YouTube and these entities, because there is an element here of exaggeration to get eyeballs on certain platforms for people to watch, you know, content. You know, you got to be kind of careful to sift through all that. I think the truth usually lies in the middle, almost every single time. So it's not perfect, but it's also not collapsing. It's not going through like bankruptcy. Okay. So the truth is in the middle. So we're having a rough patch. They're probably going to sell some linear TV shit off or whatever, but we're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. But we're going to have a few years of it being kind of hard. I think that's really the reality on the ground. And anything else in either direction, either extreme, it's probably bullshit. So, all right. So we got, Marty, thank you so much, brother.
Marty.
Very, very generous super chat, $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Marty. Happy 7th anniversary, OG. Congrats to both of you on creating something awesome. Enjoy a drink on me. Thank you so much, Marty. That means a lot, brother. Thank you so much. We got to hang out again at the parks, Marty. We got to hang out again.
Yeah, I want to hang out with that dude. I mean, because I got to spend a little bit of time with him in Toontown very briefly when we were out there for the opening of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railways, but I really would love to just like sit on, maybe grab some dinner, grab a drink, and shoot the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. BJ Vincent here says, in Transformers Rise of the Beast, there was a post-credit scene that gave speculation to another 80s cartoon series crossover with Transformers. Would you like to see another 80s cartoon crossover? I mean, look, I didn't see that movie, BJ, so I can't really comment too much. I don't even know what other cartoon was referenced in that. I mean, to be honest. But hey, look, I was a kid in the 80s. I'm telling you, I was like the biggest 80s kid. I mean, I liked all this crap, like Transformers, He-Man, Silverhawks. Okay. I'm really aging myself. Silverhawks. I even had Care Bears, GoBots. I mean, you name it. Voltron. I was into all the 80s stuff. So yeah, I'd be down for that if it's done well. Why not? It would be smart, I think. And it's nostalgia is big right now, so why not? Okay, so Mr. Seymour Duck here says Disney selling Disney Star to India to Reliance Industries should help with the Hulu deal, being valued around 7 to 10 billion. That's a great point, Seymour. I forgot about that. They are, and from what we understand, I mean, the Hollywood trades were reporting on this, so this is close to a done deal. This isn't just like a rumor. This is happening. So hopefully they can close that out. 7 to 10 billion is great. That's great. They can do that. They can pay for this Hulu deal, not have a big effect on the company. That'd be fantastic. And from what I understand, India, the ARPU over there is not good, and it's they don't even pay that. They don't pay like the subscription over there is like $1 a month or something. It's like it's kind of pointless for Disney to even maintain all that. Just if you can make $10 billion off of it, do that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Mr. Matthew Murr says here, do you think Tim Rice made a greater contribution as a songwriter than Howard Ashman, or is it too subjective to say who is truly superior? I got to be honest, Matthew. I have a bias with Howard Ashman. I love Howard Ashman, and I love what he did with Disney. I honestly, in my opinion, I think Howard Ashman made a bigger impact on the Walt Disney Company than Tim Rice. Now, I'm not negating Tim Rice's impact. He is definitely a Disney legend as well. But Howard Ashman, man, that guy is just 1 in a billion. 1 in a billion. Roy Disney referred to Howard Ashman as another Walt. I mean, come on. What do you think, George? I know you're a Howard guy.
Oh, I am. I'm team Howard Ashman for sure. And just like you had mentioned, it's not that I am not a fan of Tim Rice. He's done a lot of great musicals, Broadway, the music for Disney. I think Tim Rice came in at a time when Disney needed it after Howard Ashman's passing.
Right.
I think that he was the right guy to then kind of step forth and work with Alan Menken, with like the second process of Aladdin, because I know Howard Ashman worked a little bit with Menken on Aladdin very briefly, just like talking about it, but unfortunately he passed before having too much significant work, and that's when they brought Tim on board, and then progressing moving forward. So I think Tim Rice was a great pick due to the circumstances, but I mean, like if Disney had a choice and Ashman was still with us,
yeah,
he'd still be making music for Disney.
Yeah, no, I miss Howard Ashman like crazy. I think he was just a phenomenal human being and very, very talented. Marty here says, kind of hard to go balls to the wall in the middle of Toontown, my man. Yeah. Sure. Can't wait to see you again, George. Absolutely. Yeah. We got to plan some.
Yeah, we definitely do. And yes, probably Marty, like maybe we'll like hit up like something that's not like the opposite of Toontown.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe
Trader Sam's.
There we go. That's much better. Much better. He continues, Silverhawks were so cool. It really was. I love Silverhawks. I had the toys and everything. It was awesome. And Thundercats. Remember Thundercats? Oh, my God.
Thundercats.
Oh. And then Mr. Seymour Duck here says that Care Bear theme song, though. I know. The 80s theme songs in these cartoons were amazing. And it continued into the 90s with the Disney Afternoon and those theme songs. I mean, these are banger songs, I mean, try to get Gummy Bears out of your head. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
You just put it in there now. See, it's like
boom. Everyone's singing it down their head. You can't get it out. I'll be in there all night. BJ Vincent here says, I would like to see a crossover for G.I. Joe and Mask and Thundercats and He-Man. Yeah. I mean, I used to watch every single one of these shows, man. I mean, I was Yeah, that's probably before your time, George. You know, a little bit.
A little bit. Thundercats and He-Man, I did watch. I
Okay.
was actually a huge fan. I obviously I've heard of GI Joe and Mask, but I never really like got into them. But Thundercats, He-Man. Um, I don't know if this was part of the '80s. SWAT Cats. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, I think that might be
Is
'90s
that
if I'm not
'90s?
mistaken. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that might be '90s, but '90s were good too.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot better than now. The
Okay.
cartoons on TV nowadays, and I'm
Oh
older, so it's not that's not fair.
no, but honestly, but
but
it's just, but I don't know. Even though maybe better quality, actually animation, so to speak, but
yeah.
you can't beat the classics.
You just can't. You can't beat him. Lord Jonathan. Lord Jonathan's always in our chat. I appreciate you, Lord Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us. Question: could we get Villains Land with Hocus Pocus sisters? You know what? You might.
Absolutely. Let's just
You
get Villains Land regardless.
boom.
Villains Land all around.
There we go. There we go. Well, no, I do think you could because, and I'll give you a big reason why. That's become a cult classic, right? The first movie has, but the second movie, from what I understand, had a had huge numbers on Disney Plus when it came out, which surprised me. I didn't think there was an audience like that for Hocus Pocus, but it did banger numbers. I mean, this was a big deal on Disney Plus. So,
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, OG or chat. I think like after they seen the numbers, they were already in talks to do a possible second sequel with the Sanderson sisters. But yeah, I mean, they came back in a big way. You know, they're very comical. They're very musical, so to speak. And I think,
right.
I mean, they're very popular during Mickey and Minnie's Not So Scary Halloween Party. So I mean, to kind of give them a permanent residence in the parks, you know, with Villains Land, maybe just have them, even if it's a meet and greet, you know, I'm for sure that would be like the line would go out the door.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, they become a little bit of a franchise. They were at Oogie Boogie Bash, right? I believe.
They had Minnie, Daisy, and Clarabelle dressed as them.
Dressed like them, yeah.
Yeah.
So see, I mean, if you got Minnie dressed like them,
Yeah.
it's a big property.
Yeah.
Minnie is a fashion icon. Okay, she's not getting in something that's not. So absolutely. Marty here says that can we get AC in our monorail? I know that takes a back seat to new tires for Walt Disney World. Yeah, you got to pick and choose, brother. You got to pick and choose. No, but no, I think the AC that was a weird one, wasn't it? That was a real one. A weird one. How they, they built those monorails where you don't have any air AC in there. So on those hot days, now it's fine when you're moving because you have little flaps and the air comes in, but man, it's rough when it stops. It's really rough. It's like the Skyliner, basically.
Yeah, but the only difference is I feel like the Skyliner you could still get some decent air quality.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Cliffix here says, "Do you watch WDW Pro and Valiant Renegades Disney financial analysis videos?" I have. I've seen their content before. I mean, this morning I was watching the Park Place Halloween special. They were talking about all kinds of stuff this morning, so I have seen their content before. George, have you ever seen a pro or VR's? Specifically the financial videos.
Yeah, I have watched a few of them. I don't really tend to get into it like fully, like where I could watch it like from beginning to end, but I do kind of skim through it, just curiosity, to see what they have to say, see their take on things.
It's important. I think it's important to, because look, it's no secret. I don't agree with a lot of these fills. Yeah, I mean, I'm hey, that's fine. But I think it's important though. Like you have to, and I don't mean just with them, but like you have to consume, I think, stuff where you see the opposing viewpoint, because it's very important to honing in your own arguments, right? Like you want to know what the other side's saying about stuff. A lot of people get stuck in this echo chamber where they only want to watch people with the same opinion that they have. And that does you no good as a person. That does no good. Mm-hmm. I like to watch other people's content that maybe I disagree with. And then it makes me think and kind of sharpen my own.
And it starts arguments. A conversation.
Right.
It starts a conversation and it keeps a conversation going. Otherwise you're just sitting there. I agree. I agree. It's like it's not going anywhere.
It's boring. It's boring that way. You know, we want to have disagreements. You know, there's another content creator that we just reacted to, which is PC Dev. We you know, we love PC Dev. We did a reaction video where we disagreed with PC Dev on a lot of stuff, you know, in regards to like the Disney price hikes and all that, right? And that's all good, you know, it's all friendly, you know, but I think that makes for interesting, not only interesting content, but just interesting, like to kind of like just to take in, like, oh man, I don't agree with this, you know, this is, it kind of gets you riled up. Whereas if you watch content where you always agree with it, it's boring, like George was saying, you know, and plus, you know, hey, look, since he asked about Pro and Valiant Renegade, I gotta bring up Legal Mindset, okay? Because I know Legal Mindset is part of that whole like group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Legal Mindset's another guy. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, right? But there's one thing I do agree with him on, right, George?
Yep, you do.
There's one thing I agree with.
One thing
I agree with Legal Mindset on. Here we go.
And I like Asia. I like Asian women. They're super hot. I like Asian food, and the cost of living's here, and it's super safe. So
completely agree, Legal Mindset. I like Asian women too. I think they're super hot. And I like Asian food. I think it's great. So, hey, look, even when you don't agree on Disney, you can find that common ground, right? You can find that common ground 100%. But Cliffus, yeah, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much for that. Let me see here. What else do we got in the chat? I don't think we have any more questions. I think that might be just about it with the questions. So we might be wrapping up pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, overall, you know, I think that, you know, in terms of, you know, Walt Disney World, I do think they need to address these monorails. I do think that, look, we got an issue right out here. Cliffix brought up with Murphy. There's issues at Disney. You know, there's issues at Disney. I brought up recently issues at Universal, you know, and I'll bring up the issues here on the channel with Disney. You know, both of these companies have things they need to address, and hopefully they both address these issues sooner rather than later.
I don't know if anybody in the chat can answer this for me. For both coasts, well, you don't really have to answer for Disneyland because I've been Disneyland enough that I've noticed a lot of the crowd levels. But for Walt Disney World, I'm hearing like a lot of mixed viewpoints on the crowd levels that's going on in Walt Disney World. I'm hearing like from certain sources saying, oh, the parks are dead, you know, the wait times aren't that long and what have you. But then I'm also seeing a lot of content creators that when they're in the parks at Walt Disney World, there's massive crowds, you know. Right. Kyle Palo, who I'm a huge fan of his YouTube channel, you know, he was walking the parks with his sister, and it was like he was in Magic Kingdom and they were moving from Adventureland to Frontierland, and it was like almost bottlenecked.
Jeez. Well, I was at Disneyland this past Saturday, and it was like one of the busiest days I've seen in a long time over there. It was crazy. Now, there's certain areas at Disneyland that are always busy, like the Adventureland, because it's really bottleneck. And Toontown lately has been really busy because it's new. But the whole park was like that. And California Adventure was crazy busy. So we've been having some pretty healthy crowds over here lately. I mean, so I don't know. That's just anecdotal, though. The days that I go, it seems like they're pretty busy. Now, there was a gentleman today, I think his name is Ryan Theme Park. He was on Twitter talking. He was at the parks today, which is a Tuesday. He was at the parks today, Disneyland and DCA, and he was taking pictures of everything. It was empty. So, I mean, it's a weekday, but still, you know, so I guess it just maybe depends. Andrew Kellogg here says, do you think Walt Disney Imagineering is creatively bankrupt? Not at all. Mm-mm. Not at all. Because okay, let's take Tokyo Disney, for example. Okay, let's take Tokyo Disney, for example. Look at what they're doing with Fantasy Springs. You know who designed all that? Imagineering. Okay, Imagineering. Look at the Zootopia thing over in Shanghai. It's incredible. You know who designed that? Imagineering. Look at the Frozen thing over in Hong Kong. Imagineering. So when Imagineering is given the proper budget, they can do amazing things.
That's the problem. It's not the creative of being bankrupt. It's the financial of the bankrupt, so to speak. Because when you mentioned Tokyo, and as we mentioned earlier, you know, Tokyo has their own separate financial funds, separate from the Walt Disney Company putting that money into. However, the creative side behind it, that's all WDI. That's still coming from the Walt Disney Company.
Right, 100%. So no, they're not bankrupt. They're not creatively bankrupt. We got good people in Imagineering still. We got Bruce Vaughn back, which is great, bring some of that, that old school Imagineering into the mix. I think it needed that. So that was a good move on Iger's part, So we'll see. We'll see how Tiana turns out. A lot of people, unfortunately, that whole thing is in the middle of the culture war. We'll see how that attraction turns out. I think that at the end of the day, I think it'll be a decent attraction. I think that some of these scenes in there are going to be beautiful. It's just going to be tough with, because it is such a beloved attraction and the music was so, iconic and stuff. I think it's gonna be hard to kind of follow that up. But, Princess and the Frog has a really, really strong soundtrack and we'll see what they do with it. I'm gonna have an open mind with it, I'm gonna have an open mind with it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Mr. Seymour Duck here says, do you think entertainment companies should embrace video games more? The success of Five Nights at Freddy's and the Mario movie is something else. Yeah. You know what, Seymour? I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind if Disney kind of dipped into that a little bit on the content side, right? Like I've said before, like I don't think that Disney should necessarily try to fight Nintendo in the parks because you're not going to beat Nintendo. Okay, you're not going to build, like, no brand in the video game world is bigger than Nintendo, right?
Sega learned that the hard way.
They learned that the hard way. But what I would be open to, though, is if Disney kind of dipped into the content, like a movie, a TV show that was based on a beloved video game franchise.
Kingdom Hearts.
Well,
I would love to see. I mean, like the platform for that video game series just exploded. With these various different storylines and characters where it meshes Disney with Final Fantasy of Square Enix and what have you. So I mean, I would love to see like a spin-off series or movie franchise off of that game because I was a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah,
still am.
Yeah, no, that would be huge. They would be smart to do that. Absolutely, that would be a great movie or make a series or something. I think that'd be pretty awesome, pretty cool. Cliffix here says Disney's big quarterly earning call is soon. Love to see you do a live review of that. Oh, Cliffix, we are planning on it. We can't wait. I got Ali Aloha's in the chat. I think she's still in the chat. She's going to be joining us for that. We're going to get Mr. Seymour Duck on that one. Obviously, this guy right here, the Italiano. But we're going to do a big show on the quarterly earnings. I'm very, very interested to see what's in that report. I want to see what the parks look like. I think that's interesting because in Anaheim, it's been gangbusters busy. So I'm very curious how that looks. I know Comcast, when they had their quarter recently, they did really good in Hollywood because of Nintendo, Mario, but not so good in Orlando though. The numbers for their Orlando park, the revenue actually went down. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag for Comcast. So we'll see if that plays out here in for Disney. Is Anaheim going to have a banger quarter again and Walt Disney World is going to be flat or losing revenue? We'll see. We'll absolutely see, but it's going to be very interesting. Any predictions for the quarterly earnings call, George?
It's kind of hard to say because I mean it can go really either way. I mean, normally we would always say, Disney, they got this or it's going to be like this. I mean, now it's completely unpredictable. But I am very curious to see because I think out of this quarter, out of everything, is going to be very telling of it moving forward and how you had mentioned earlier. Iger said the numbers are going to show coming like at the end of 23 and the beginning of 24. So let's see if he puts his money where his mouth is. So it's like and what happens when you put money where your mouth is, you get those Funyuns.
Oh yeah, you get Funyuns.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There you go, like a bag of new Funyuns, right? Exactly. Thank you, George. I appreciate that, sir. It wouldn't be an OG show without some Lil Wayne. Actually, it wouldn't be an OG show without Lalisa too. Hold on.
Give me the drop, some money, dropping on my money, drop some money.
There we go.
Don't lie, OG. You love that booty shake.
Hey, I'm a huge Blackpink fan. I make no bones about it. Actually, look, am I a Blackpink fan?
Guilty.
Yes, I'm a Blackpink fan. I'm guilty of that. Absolutely. And I love Lalisa. I think she's fantastic. Okay, so Cliffix here is asking, is the Disney culture war a real thing today? Years ago, we all swore it was a myth. That's interesting. I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, I think the culture war is a real thing. I mean, I don't know about what you mean necessarily about the Disney culture war. Like, do you mean Disney internally? Are they kind of battling it out? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Cliffix, but I mean, the culture war itself is a real thing. I think that the peak, though, of the culture war was really like a 2021 era, right? I think it's kind of fizzling out right now, though. I think people are kind of like tired of it, you know?
Yeah.
I think people are getting burnt out. I think people just want to enjoy content and just kind
And
of
I think, honestly, there's a lot going on in the real world that, like, all the Disney culture war is like pennies, you know, compared to everything else.
Well, that's true. I mean, you got so much going on right now with everything. People are having a hard time with the inflation and all that stuff. And to sit there and worry about the Little Mermaid movie, right? It's like, gosh, there's just people don't give a shit.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I don't know. You're right, George. There's so much going on right now where a lot of that stuff seems so trivial. You know, it really does. But I do think, though, Cliffix, we did a video the other day, though. We do think Disney is moderating, or at least there's signs of that moderation, right? Because like we were at the parks, or I was at the parks on Saturday, like I mentioned, and they're going all in on like the military. Like there's a whole section in DCA in one of the stores, but you can buy military merch supporting our armed forces. You know, real like rah 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 go America kind of vibes. Okay, now that's unusual, Cliffix. I mean, that wouldn't have happened 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think. You know, so I do think Disney is trying to kind of bring it back towards the middle a little bit. You know, now look, does that mean we're not going to have anything that's progressive? No, you're still going to have your Pride Month and all this other stuff. Disney is going to do that. Universal does it too. All these companies are going to do that. But I think what they're going to try to do, though, is sort of mix it in with some of this other stuff that maybe might be seen as more conservative, to sort of even that playing field a little bit. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Let me see here. Abraham 80x5 says here, have you guys ever been to horror nights, or will you guys ever go, or is it not your guys' cup of tea? Okay, so Abraham, I have been to horror nights, but it's been a really long time, like the late 90s. Okay, I was like a teenager. I had fun, though. I went with a bunch of coworkers. Our coworker, the girl, was like freaking out the whole time. It was hilarious. Look, it's not really my cup of tea, but I'm an open-minded person, and I'll check it out again. It's been so long. So yeah, why not? What do you think, George? Have you been? Would you want to go? Not go?
Yeah. I'm right in the same boat with you. I've never experienced any of the horror nights. I am curious about them. I would eventually like to go to at least one.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's just like you, OG. It's not like my full cup of tea where like I'll go out of my way to say, oh, I really have to do this. But I mean, if I had the opportunity to go, you know, and the stars align correctly, it's like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a Halloween guy. You could tell because I'm here doing this instead of being out somewhere, right? Like, I'm not really a Halloween guy. I'm more of a Christmas guy. I like the Christmas season. That's my bias. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to anything. I mean, look, I haven't been to Knott's Berry Farm since I was like 10 years old, right? I mean, long time. And I'm in my 40s now, so that's a long time for me, right? And friend of the channel, Theme Park Casual, took me down there and had a great time. I love Knott's. I have a season pass now. Okay, so it's always good to give things a try. And hey, you never know. Even though I'm not really a Halloween spooky season kind of guy, I might go to Halloween Horror Nights and fall in love with it and be a regular every single year. You never know. You absolutely never know. Bad Thoughts Podcast. We got Tones and Candid in the house. Do you think a Black Panther ride or something showing off Wakanda technology in a land would be a good idea or no? I think it's a great idea. I think it'd be a great idea. I don't really know. I mean, that would be cool for like an extension off of like a vendor's campus or something, you know? It would be interesting to see how they could work that into that park, though. But what do you think, George? Would you be down for a Black Panther ride somewhere in the Disney park?
Absolutely. I would love just to see the aesthetics of a land of Wakanda. You know, because I love how it blends the natural beauty of nature, but with a futuristic technological side to it.
Cool.
And it just blends so well. And I think to add that to the parks, I think would be phenomenal.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Cliffix here. Cliffix, you're asking some good questions tonight, brother. He's going for it. He's going for it. We're actually going to deep dive with actually Bad Thoughts Podcast on this South Park episode, but we'll dive into it a little bit right now. Why not? So full disclosure, I haven't seen the whole episode. Okay, I'm going to actually subscribe to Paramount Plus, probably tonight actually, and check it out the full episode. But I've seen a lot of the Disney stuff on Twitter. I mean, it's been all over Twitter. My thoughts on it, my general overall thoughts is I think they roasted the hell out of Disney. I mean, they roasted the hell out of Disney like crazy, right? But here's the thing that a lot of people aren't talking about. I think they also roasted the people on the other side. Like this whole thing about like Cartman and Kathleen Kennedy's under my bed. They're kind of making fun of the people that are like super like crazy about Kennedy, like they hate her so much or whatever. Like, oh, she's under my bed. They're kind of mocking those people too. So there's mocking going on, not just in Disney direction, but I think in some fan circles as well. So we'll talk about it in more detail on Friday with the guys from Bad Thoughts podcast. But honestly though, overall, it seems like, I mean, the stuff that I've seen looks absolutely brilliant. I think it's funny as hell.
And I think, and honestly, a lot of people have to go in with the mindset when you watch South Park. I've been watching it since its conception. And yes, I was watching it at an age where I shouldn't have been watching it, but who hasn't really? And with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they literally make fun of anything, everything, anybody and everybody. It's like there's no holds bar with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So it's like you can't necessarily say, oh, well, they're just leaning towards one side of, making fun of Disney. They make fun of Disney. They make fun of Tom Cruise. They make fun of religion. They make fun of politics. It's just them. That's their shtick.
That's their shtick. And Disney has been a target for a lot of these kind of more adult orientated, like animated shows for a long time.
Simpsons. I was just going to say the Simpsons knock jokes, and now actually Disney owns them in a sense, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Simpsons have been doing it for years. Family Guy has been doing it for years. Disney owns them too. Funny. So when does Disney buy South Park? That's what I'm asking. Right? That's the only one they didn't.
And yet they had Randy Marsh as a cameo in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So they had to talk to somebody over in Comedy Central or Paramount or what have you to kind of get those legal rights, just to show. So, I mean,
yeah,
I bet you they all go to dinner. They all sit together and have a nice dinner and a cup of tea afterwards. It's like,
it's interesting. Yeah. Alia here says South Park mocks everyone equally. They kind of do. Yeah. They kind of do. And that episode, I'm telling you, they went hard for Disney. They absolutely did, especially Kathleen Kennedy. But they went for the fans too. When Cartman was saying, "Oh, Kathleen Kennedy is under my bed," that was mocking the fans, sort of like the extreme, sort of like this weird kind of like mindset that Kathleen Kennedy is like the devil, and she's there's this thing where she's kind of like, I think she's exaggerated. She's the exaggerated villain, kind of like Chapek was. Now look. I'm not saying I like Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not saying that I think she should still be there. I absolutely do not think she should be. I think she should leave, move on. We should bring someone else in there. But I do think there is an element of the fandom that sort of goes too far. It's an extreme sort of thing, right?
And isn't that funny how the creators of South Park even notices that? Not us, just Disney fan people. Like they notice it in maybe Trey Parker and Matt Stone's watching us right now and they're like, you know what? They talk about Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah, let's add her into the show.
Let's add her in. But yeah, I think they're making fun of Disney. I think they're making fun of some fans. I think it's going around. It's not just totally focused on Disney. Cliffix here says, hit those likes, folks. Thank you so much, Cliffix. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Abraham here says, I don't really comment or show myself, but I just want to say that I've been watching for over a year now, and I love your content. Oh, thank you, Abraham. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to us. And to answer your second question, yes, I am ignoring all the doorbell rings and all the knocks. Too. I don't care. No. No, actually, we don't really.
No, actually, it's been dead tonight. There's like nobody around, but over here on the Pennsylvania East Coast, it's pretty damn cold here. So I mean, I think everyone just like took a drive up to Walmart, just bought some bags of candy, and was like, let's call it a night.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Cliffix here says South Park makes fun of both sides, but the anti-Disney crowd doesn't feel offended or hurt whatsoever. The other side, I don't know. Yeah, that might be true. I mean, I haven't really seen too much. I haven't seen too much butthurt on the anti-Disney crowd from the little that I've seen from that side. We don't really know Disney's take on it though, right? Like we don't know. Maybe Kennedy's really mad. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll have to kind of see, because I mean, South Park has taken jabs at Disney before. I don't know. I don't think it was to this extent, which I don't think Disney, made any kind of moves or comments to it. But I mean, yeah, we'll see, because they actually kind of tend to pick more on the people that are working internally in the company now. So we'll kind of see, their take on it. But BJ Vincent also said, I love the South Park's Blame Canada song. I actually did too, from the movie, and that song was nominated for an Academy Award. And bless his heart, Robin Williams actually performed that live at the Oscars the year it was nominated. I thought that it was hilarious, and much love to Robin. He
absolutely
comic genius.
Absolute comic genius, really great guy, and he left us way too soon. But it is kind of cool though, on it's kind of a tangent, but not really, how they incorporated some unused audio from Aladdin in that new short, Once Upon a Studio. Yeah. I thought that was a beautiful tribute to, obviously not just to the studio, but a tribute even to Robin. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Like to say, even though Robin's not here with us, he still lives on even within the character Genie. So it's like, rather than just try to find someone to replace his voice, just to do a 10-second little snippet, they thought, no, we're going to honor Robin and his comedic genius as the Genie and give him his dues.
Awesome. Just whoever was in charge of putting that whole short together, I think they just did a beautiful job. I think they nailed it on so many levels. It was just a beautiful tribute to that studio. I have very little complaints about what they did with that. It was very well done. I actually should look into who actually produced it, like who was like the director or whatever of that, because I mean, they seem to understand the product pretty good. So
kudos.
It's very well done. Yeah, very very well done. Bad Thoughts here says Disney reveals portrait of the captain, a new character for the Haunted Mansion parlor on the Disney cruise ship. Did you guys see that? I did not see that. Did you? You're more of a cruise guy, George. So
yeah, I didn't see. Actually, I didn't look further into it. I didn't see the portrait of the captain. I mean, I do know about the Haunted Mansion parlor,
right,
coming to the Disney treasure, but I must have missed that portrait. If you fellas want to elaborate on the who is the captain of the portrait, I don't know.
Now I'm going to go ahead because our friend CliffX is asking us about Snow White. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to pull up the picture. We're going to talk about this for a little bit. This is actually something we're going to talk about with the Bad Thoughts podcast on Friday. But, we can dip a little bit into it today just to kind of, put our toe in the water. Okay. So any thoughts on Snow White? Okay. This is controversial, Cliffix. Are you trying to get me canceled, Cliffix? Okay, here we go. So thoughts on Snow White. My overall thoughts are, well, out the gate, I'm not really a big fan of the live action remakes. I think they're lazy. I'll be honest. They're lazy cash grabs. Okay. But historically, they made Disney a lot of money. A lot of these movies, these live action remakes have made $1 billion. Maybe not so much lately. But I mean, some of the pre-pandemic stuff did. So in terms of Snow White, I think
I'm just going to say it. This looks fucking horrible.
See, George doesn't. He just cut to the chase. He cut to the chase. Well, see here. Okay, here was my opinion on it. Right, because the reports were initially that the hippies in the field were going to be like replacing the dwarves. Right.
Right.
So we saw the shot of the hippies in the field, and all these people are replacing the dwarves, right? Well, now we hear that they're not. Now we hear that actually the whole time that she was always going to have the dwarves, but her boyfriend or something, Jonathan, I don't know, whatever her guy is in this movie or whoever, I guess he has 7 bandits with him, and that's who the hippies are in the field. So they never were going to replace the dwarves, supposedly. Okay, so when I thought they were replacing the dwarves, with the hippies and I saw this image, I was kind of giving Disney credit and kudos because I was like, okay, so they're taking the fan complaints and they're addressing them. You know, that worked out real good for Sonic the Hedgehog, that movie Sonic the Hedgehog, when fans didn't like the look of the character, they went back and they changed it and it paid off for that movie. So I actually gave them credit. I was like, okay, you know, look, they were going to do the 7 hippies. They canceled that. Now they're going to do dwarves. That's how they should be doing. But they weren't. But that was never the thing anyway, though. They never were going to replace the dwarf. So now I don't know what to think. I don't know. I look. Am I going to see this? Absolutely not. I don't think it looks that great. You know,
my gripe about this, in a sense, they replaced the dwarves, not in the sense of the character, the dwarves themselves.
okay.
What I feel like they did was they kind of made these knockoff interpretations of the characters because they didn't want to use little people actors.
Right.
And due to like statements that were made around in Hollywood at the time that it's like you're typecasting and what have you, but there were dwarf-like actors that actually went against this notion, saying that, you know, roles like this don't come around for us, you know,
Right.
every so often. It comes in a blue moon. So it's like, we're not going to get the role like Tom Cruise would, or we're not going to get the role like these big A-lister. These are the roles that are made for us. So they're taking jobs away from them to put them in a spotlight. So in a way, they're making it to be where, okay, we're thinking about your feelings, but yet you're taking away something that they would want to do.
Well, and what I don't understand is what was the issue? Because okay, we talk a lot about representation, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
I believe it was. I don't know the full. Anyone in the comments, please, if you could elaborate. I didn't read like the full statement, but it was something actor Peter Dinklage said or mentioned something, and it just kind of like spiraled out of control.
Right.
Where then Disney then had to kind of do like damage control on that statement. So I think Disney was kind of not afraid, but like they didn't want to go down that rabbit hole.
But I mean, I haven't seen Snow White, the original movie, in a long time. But I don't remember I don't remember her ever like disparaging the dwarfs in any way.
No.
Like, so what's the problem? Like, why not just have dwarfs in there? And like I said, it's representation for little people, whatever. And why is that bad? And it's not like they're making fun of the dwarfs. I don't remember her ever doing that in the original movie. So why is this a problem?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And it really isn't. There really isn't a problem, honestly. I mean, as far as why they couldn't cast real live actors, because I'm telling you right now, these dwarves, and someone had mentioned it about the CGI. I'm sorry, they really need to update the CGI, Abraham. Yeah, you'll get to know me really quick. I don't mince my words. So
yeah, 100%.
But yeah, the CGI needs to be improved. They kind of look like porcelain figures that you would find like in an antique shop. You know, they don't look realistic to me. Where
you know what it looks like to me? You see that Steven Spielberg movie a few years ago, the BFG?
Yes.
That's what these look like to me.
Yes.
Like that, you know, which is fine. It's whatever. But like you're talking about Snow White. This is a masterpiece of a movie. A masterpiece of a movie. This is what set the whole Walt Disney Company in motion, basically. I mean, you can argue Mickey Mouse, but Snow White really put Walt Disney on the map. I mean, it was a first animated cartoon. It made people cry in the theater. It was like this elevated animation. And then you go and you follow it up with this. It's like very mediocre.
And Cliffix is correct. They were noble heroes, of the story. They took Snow White in. They gave her shelter. They gave her comfort. They came to her rescue. So it's like, yeah, the prince might have came like at the very end, did very little, knelt down, gave her a kiss, woke her up. But I mean, the dwarves did all the heavy duty work, so it's like, and a lot of people don't really showcase that enough. I really feel like the dwarves, should get their comeuppance, in a good way.
Right, absolutely. And Ollie here says there are little people acting talent that became upset, saying, "quote He doesn't speak for all of us." End quote. Peter has privileged in a way, being a star. That's what George was kind of saying, Ollie. That's I mean, from what he was saying too, like a lot of little people were upset over Peter's comments. So I don't know. I just and maybe we're missing something here. I don't know. If we're missing something, please comment about it and let us know. But the dwarves in Snow White were never disparaged or made fun of or mocked or anything like that. It was never a negative thing. I really don't know why it would be a problem to have them.
And then, oh yeah, go ahead.
Michael, this is the one that you wanted to.
Oh no, it's the next one. I missed Michael's, but you get, and then we'll move on anyway.
Perfect. It says Michael here says, "quote It makes no sense to me because you're progressive in one way, but you're still making the fucking backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What the fuck are you doing, man?" Yeah, it's just I don't know. I think that with all this stuff, I think people get too much in the weeds with this stuff, and like it just.
I think it gets overthunk, really. I think a lot of people that they try to make a mountain out of a molehill, and it's like just leave it as is. Just let it be the classic that it is, and stop trying to, change it so much.
Yeah, and Michael here says this is what Dinklage said. So he was quoting Dinklage. So that was his remarks.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Dinklage here says it makes no sense to me because you're progressive in one way, but you're still making the fucking backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What the fuck are you doing, man?
And if I could speak to Mr. Dinklage, that if you're going to speak something of this nature, get your facts correct, because the dwarves didn't live in a cave. They right. they worked in the mine and they went home in their cottage. Where, they did not live in a cave.
Exactly. If you're going to talk shit, at least know your facts, right? Come on, Dinklage. Come on. I liked him too in Game of Thrones. Come on, Dinklage.
Yeah. Oh, so Seymour mentioned, because I was actually going to bring this up. Yes, the new Wonka movie has actor Hugh Grant, who is over 6 foot, playing the Oompa Loompas. Now, when you look at the original classic Gene Wilder 1970s Willy Wonka, a masterpiece in my mind, they had, small actors portraying the Oompa Loompas. And even Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I wasn't too big on, but I mean, he got actor Deep Roy, who was also, a little person, an actor who portrayed all the Oompa Loompas. So it's like, why not give them the credibility they deserve? Give them the spotlight. Why take it from them?
I don't understand it. Like, isn't it more of a slap in the face that you get Hugh Grant to play that role?
Yeah, it's like
isn't that kind of messed up or no? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think that's more of an insult to the small people community.
I do too. I mean, and I'm not a small person, so I can't really say. I'm just saying it. I mean, optics wise, it looks bad in my opinion. Bad Thoughts. Speaking of bad, here we go. Bad Thoughts podcast says that Disney Imagineering has released a ghoulish new portrait of the captain, one of the happy haunts sailing on the new Disney treasure. They revealed that the ship will have a haunted mansion theme bar. Yeah, we actually have a video on that. That sounds pretty dope. Actually, I like that idea. It's kind of controversial. Not a lot of people like Disney doing like the whole alcohol thing, and it's so heavily tied to a Disney IP haunted mansion like directly, but. I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, Disney has been with these bars. They've been handled with good taste, right? No pun intended. But like, if you look at like Trader Sam's and things like that, they're heavily themed, really well done experiences, and they're not like trashy or anything like that. I'm fine with it.
And before we move on, I want to really quick. I want to touch upon Lord Jonathan's question, because he had asked this sometime, and there was like so much
this one
going. No, it was the Descendants one. He had asked. Okay. He had asked about what do you feel like the Descendants in the parks? For me, the Descendants I think would go well during like the Halloween parties and events, because there's a lot of music and a lot of upbeat to it. I wouldn't say to have them as a like a full on permanent stance in the parks, but I think I think that the series, the movie franchise, is good enough. I think for like a dance party or some sort of
Yeah.
special event, in the parks.
I follow a few like cosplayers from like Japan on Twitter, right? And they'll share their Halloween pictures every year. And Japan, the Japanese go all out for Halloween in Japan. It's crazy. Or at least the Disney fans over there do, right? But believe it or not, a lot of Japanese cosplay as Descendants characters. A lot. Like I'm talking, when I say Georgia, I'm talking a lot. I'm talking like up there with like the princesses. Like
Wow.
I see costume after costume after costume of the Descendants. I guess it's really big in Japan. I don't know. I don't know if it ever got real super big out here in the States, but apparently over there it's a pretty big deal. So it's interesting. Let me see. Where was I? Oh, here. Cliffix, cancel this movie completely. Don't mess with the masterpiece. It's guaranteed failure. What do you think? Should they just cancel this thing, or maybe just throw it on to Disney Plus? What do you think, George?
I think like it's already in the pipeline. If they were to cancel it fully, that shows that Disney is unequipped. It's kind of like they're throwing themselves under the bus, unfortunately, for how bad this movie could be. But I would keep it out of like theaters and like heavy marketing. I would just like kind of just as you mentioned, OG, just throw it on Disney Plus, and if it makes the numbers, but I really think, and I get it that Disney's on this string of live action, but unfortunately the live actions aren't doing so hot like they used to. Like
Yeah,
when you have like the Jungle Book and Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, even the Lion King, they were heavy hitters at the box office with the
right.
live action stance. But I mean, you just kind of see the trajectory; it's just dropping. So I just kind of wish that Disney would just kind of like let it go and focus on some original material.
Yeah. Now, Ollie here brings up an interesting point. She said Greta Gerwig is co-writer. If they give her more power, it might be saved. She proved herself with Barbie.
That's
That
true.
that could be
That's very
true. From what I hear, Barbie was pretty well received. Obviously, did very well in the box office. One thing too is Rachel Zegler, who I don't dislike this girl. I think. Hey, look, I don't dislike her at all. A lot of people don't like her. Whatever. She's got her beliefs. She can have her beliefs. But aside from that, she doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to movies and those movies being successful. If you look at her film, like her list of films that she's been in, they pretty much all have been flops. Okay, which doesn't bode well actually for the new John Lasseter animated film Spellbound, which she's a main voice character for that. But her films don't usually do well. So that I don't know. And look, I mean, maybe that's just being superstitious, but it's kind of a pattern. So we'll see.
I actually have after this one, and then Cliffix comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam Chat here says, Happy Halloween, OG crew. Well, happy Halloween to you
Happy
too,
Halloween, Sam.
Happy Halloween. Personally, I see both sides when it comes to the controversy of Snow White, but wish the film wasn't being remade. I'm kind of in the same boat, Sam.
Yeah.
I can kind of see both sides of it, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it's like it wasn't necessary. The problem now is they poured millions and millions of dollars into this thing. It's probably $200 million plus, right? So now they're in a rock and a hard place. What do? Do you eat it when the company's already going through financial hardship, or do you release it and let it flop? So it's tough. It's really tough.
I say these studios should go the complete opposite route. Rather than make these animated classics into live action, let's turn some live action into some animation.
There you go. There we go. Let's see a Treasure Planet. Well, I would love to see a Treasure Planet live
Now
action.
that I would agree. Now Treasure Planet and Atlantis, I
Right.
think would do very well as live action if done correctly.
Yeah, and see that's different because those animated films did not do well in the box office. So you're giving those stories a second chance, So I'd be supportive of that. Those movies would be very cool in live action. So Ollie here says Rachel needs a PR lesson and needs to chill. As Eric Weber advised on his stream, she needs to take it down to an 8. Yeah, she kind of does. Just stop, Rachel. Just stop. Like we get it. Politically where you stand, the whole thing. We get it. Come on, you're hurting your own movie. You're hurting your own movie. You know what I'm saying?
And honestly, your own career. And honestly, in the words of Dick Van Dyke from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Hushabye Mountain. So
Jesus. See, that's why we love George, right? That's stuff like that. That's stuff like that. That's why we love George. Okay, I think this is the comment you wanted to
yes,
talk about.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So Cliffix for Hercules, Michael B. Jordan. Honestly, and I'm not saying this to mock or make a joke because I thought his costume was really badass this year. And honestly, do you know who I really think would be a great Hercules? Because I know, and he's a good friend of ours and a good friend of the channel, and he's a huge Hercules fan,
The Rock.
is our friend King Dakar.
Oh, yeah. King
He
Dakar.
loves Hercules, and honestly, and as I said, I'm not saying that to mock him or to make fun. I think he would be a kick-ass Hercules in a live action.
And he's a huge fan of the franchise too. So
He loves Hercules.
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, that's a rumor from what I understand, Cliffix, that they chose Michael B. Jordan. Who knows? Maybe they did. I don't know. Now, people have issues with Rachel Zegler as Snow White, right? Because they don't think she looks white enough. I kind of have to push. Well, I kind of have to push back on that a little bit. I'll tell you why. Snow White obviously is a white woman in the animated film. But she has a lot of dark features. Now, she's got really pale white skin, obviously, but she got the jet black hair and the really dark eyes. You can be a Latina and have that same feature. Like you can have, I mean, I've known Latinas, I've known Asians who have lighter skin than me. You know, so
Pitbull is the whitest Cuban I've ever seen.
I'm telling you. So just because she has pale skin doesn't necessarily mean she has to be white. I'm not opposed to them having a Latina Snow White. That could work really well, but it just depends on how they do it. I think Rachel issue is more or less not really her looks. It's really her activism or whatever she's trying to do, like what Alia was talking about. You know, it's just she needs to chill out.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem like with her appearances or features. It's more of her personality and attitude that I have a problem with.
Right, exactly. Michael here says it's like the moderation discussion you've been having. You need to try to appeal to the largest audience possible. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about that with Disney, trying to come to the middle. You gotta appeal to as many people as possible. When you're a business, you can't single out a huge swath of the population. You got to try your best. Now, you're not going to win everybody over all the time, but you got to at least try to make that work. Alia here says the Hunger Games prequel got a SAG interim agreement, so she'll be able to do the promo. Interesting test around the corner, and Disney will be paying attention. Oh yeah, Disney will be paying attention. Let me finish off Alia's real quick, and then we'll go to BJ. Alia continues to say, hopefully there's a SAG agreement for all soon. Thinking positive, yet by chance, if not, hence my previous chat mentioned. And then she goes on to say, Gina, Carano, and Rachel have about the same skin tone, so I do side-eye anyone who criticizes Rachel's skin tone. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I don't know. I think for the character of Snow White, she doesn't necessarily have to be white. You can have like a Latina. You could, there's people of color that aren't necessarily dark skin, right? And Snow White has very dark features with the hair and stuff, so it could work. Absolutely could work. Okay, then we have, let's see here.
Yep.
Oh, BJ Vincent, do you think an animated television or animated movie based on Society of Explorers and Adventurers would be a good thing? Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be kind of cool. What do you think, George? Would you be down for that?
I would definitely be down for that because it could definitely showcase, a broadened horizon of a storyline that if they wanted to incorporate it, that and more into the parks. And wasn't there rumors that there was supposed to be
there was
a show on Disney Plus
years ago? There was a rumor about that, yeah, which is kind of interesting. They're kind of like that they were kind of like reverse engineering almost, right? Because like usually they have the IP that they put in the parks. This was a park IP that now they're going to put on in content, right? It's kind of interesting kind of concept, but yeah, I'd be okay. I mean, I'd be cool with it as long as it's done well. And it's a vague enough concept. I think you can do a lot with it, So
yeah, absolutely.
You can work with that. Cliffix here says, yep, that was the purpose and power of the Panda Stone in South Park, but Disney overused the stone. I gotta watch that episode.
I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna watch it tonight. I have Paramount Plus. I just didn't have the time to, but obviously for Friday and just for the mere curiosity, I definitely want to watch that.
Yeah, and when he mentions Friday, we're going to do a video with the Bad Thoughts podcast. We're going to talk about Snow White in depth. We're going to talk about that South Park episode in depth. It's going to be a really, really fun conversation. The fellows over there, Candid Camper and Tones, are fantastic. Hilarious guys, really smart. So it's going to be a really good time. That's on Friday. The video, we're recording it. It won't be live. So it might come out Friday night, but probably Saturday morning. So just a heads up on that.
So definitely check that out. It's going to be a spicy one.
Oh, it always is. With Tones and Candid, it's always a
Yes.
spicy one. But we're going to close it out, everybody. I want to thank everybody who joined us. Laura Jonathan, Cliffix, Ali Aloha, BJ Vincent, Matthew Murr. Who else do we got in here? Marty Snyder, Sam Chat, Michael Madsen. Let me see. I'm going through Abraham. We got Bad Thoughts Podcast, of course. We love you guys. Andrew Kellogg. Let me see here. Mr. Seymour Duck, and I think that's about it. I think we got everybody. Oh, and Rob Foos. So everybody, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be closing it out. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And, of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you so much for spending time with us today on Halloween. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a great night, everybody. Now, George, we close these live shows out all the time with Carl Jr., right?
We do.
That's for our boy's showcase of wishes. He loves his Carls. Well, you love your Carls too.
I love my Carls. Yeah. Carl's Jr. Hey, if you're watching, your sponsor right here. It's like
right there. But since Halloween is pretty much behind us now. We got November tomorrow.
That's it. And you know what that means? November starts the
Christmas season.
Christmas, yes.
And Thanksgiving season and all that. So we have a very special holiday version of our Carl Jr. drop. We'll close it out with. Thank you all so much for watching. Happy Halloween. Be safe. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.